Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, and it is our 2022 Black and Gold Banneret Awards. I'm Jeff Sharon along with Eric Lopez. We also have Bryson Turner and Stat Boy Drew himself, Andrew Glukov, with us. I can never remember the name when I'm right in the middle of it. The Leroy Jenkins of UCF Twitter Mafia is with us here on for our award show. This is going to be a pretty quick one. We didn't have that much news to talk about this week, thankfully. I'm sure there will be more next week as we begin, as we're going to have media days for the AAC. We're hopefully going to have a media day pretty soon for UCF football. We're still waiting on the date for that, but as of when we're publishing this on Friday, July 22nd. But let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, just a little recap to make sure that we. By the way, before we get, gentlemen, are you dressed in your award show best for this occasion?
Yes, sir.
We're making it work. By the way, the reason Kyle's not here is we wanted to avoid him and Drew having a Will Smith, Chris Rock, awards moment here. Especially regarding members of the UCF, former members of the UCF women's basketball team.
I mean, if we go by true history, I mean, he and I once got into a bar fight, and I was one who decked him. So I guess we'll go with that.
Oh God. Oh my God. I don't even want to know. We're gonna have to discuss that at a later date. All right, so let's dive in. We have 26 awards that we passed out. That we're going to pass out on this show. Just to recap how the voting went, of course, each of us on the Black and Gold Banneret staff gets one vote, and then we put it out to a fan poll, and the winner of the fan poll gets one vote. And the way we determine the winner is whoever obviously gets the most votes on the staff wins the award. If it's tied, the fan vote winner serves as the tiebreaker. All right, so without further ado, let's dive right in. Coach of the Year awards. We've got two of them. Women's Coach of the Year, Men's Coach of the Year. We begin with the Women's Coach of the Year. Our nominees for this award, Coach Abe from basketball, Coach Cindy Ball-Malone from softball, Coach Todd Dagenet of UCF volleyball. The winner, Cindy Ball-Malone. Overwhelmingly with the victory. She had 6 votes, including winning the fan vote, and Cindy Ball-Malone, the Coach of the Year. Eric Lopez, I always defer to you on softball. Not a surprise here.
No, this was an easy choice, but not even close. With respect to the rest of the coaches who did great jobs, but they were not, of course, picked third in their own conference before the season with a young roster replacing their all-time leader in wins, winning 49 games, regular season title, tournament title, host a regional, win a regional, national seed, highest ranking in program history. Pretty remarkable job for her.
Yeah, I also forgot Dana Boone was also a nominee, but Cindy Ball-Malone, when you get to the Super Regionals for the first time, you get to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament in your sport, you're going to win. Men's Coach of the Year. This was unanimous. Our nominees were Gus Malzahn from football, Greg Lovelady from baseball, Bryce Waller from men's golf, and Scott Calabrese from men's soccer. The winner, unanimous winner for men's team Coach of the Year, Gus Malzahn in his first season at UCF, taking UCF to a bowl game, beating the Florida Gators. and really coming within 2 plays, and I'm going to defer to you on this, Andrew, coming basically within 2 plays of an 11-win season, possibly even winning the division this year. And considering the coaching job that he did with losing all the players to injury, just a remarkable coaching job by Gus.
It wouldn't be winning the division. It'd be coming up number 2, but still, there was a number of close games, a lot of 50-50 games in this year, but the men's as a whole was down, and his program was the only one that was really up.
Yeah, and great job with him. Congratulations to Gus. So those are our 2 head coaches of the year: Cindy Ball Malone, Gus Malzahn. We also passed out awards for assistant coach of the year. We start with the women's teams. Our nominees for women's assistant coach of the year: Glenn Smith of track and field, Whitney Jones of softball, Jenny Maurer of volleyball, Coach Cummings from women's soccer, and Tani Valerio from women's basketball. Our winner, and this one went to the fan vote. This was our first tiebreaker here. It is tied with Whitney Jones, but the fans voted for Jenny Maurer of UCF volleyball as the women's sports assistant coach of the year. Once again, coaching UCF to record numbers on offense, and doing a phenomenal job on recruiting. This one was a tough one. Bryson, I'll defer to you on this one. This is a really tough one. There's some good nominees here. But Jenny gets the win thanks to the fan vote.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the fact that she brought with Amber Olsen and McKenna Melville. That combination was absolutely deathly to opposing defenses this season, and they'll be back for another season. So her contributions to this UCF volleyball team cannot be understated at all. But Whitney Jones, of course, hitting coach, did a magnificent job with softball. It was that I think that's one of the reasons why it ended up being a tiebreaker the way it is. Both of them got 4 votes, so the fan vote serves as the tiebreaker to get for Jenny Maurer to get the win. Both coaches are very well deserving, and so I'm glad. But Jenny Maurer, I'm glad that volleyball got some spotlight because they had a really great season.
Historic offense. I mean, McKenna Melville, number 1 in the country in scoring and points, and of course among there in kills. Amber Olsen, the setter of the year. That's Jenny Maurer's offense. She brought him in. I think that's the difference maker. They were UCF's offense. Might have been the best in the Dagenet era ever.
Not to mention the bigs who also stepped up this year. Claudia Dillon, who came in, from Mizzou, and they're due to have another big year again.
Also, worth pointing out, all of these votes were taken prior to Whitney Jones leaving for Ohio State. So that did not have any impact on the voting, nor should it. We'll get into that. I have a feeling that'll come up later on.
That may be a factor. Maybe a factor later on. Men's team assistant coach of the year. Our nominees for men's coach of the year, men's assistant coach of the year: Travis Williams, the defensive coordinator for UCF football; Ted Tom, the hitting coach for UCF baseball; and Paul Souders from men's soccer. The winner, it was almost unanimous, not quite, but almost unanimous, and the winner of the fan vote, T. Will, UCF football. Drew, the leaps and bounds I thought that UCF's defense made in their first year under T. Will and Coach Malzahn, compared to 2020, huge improvement.
Not only huge improvement, but there was definitely on the field, but off the field, there was major morale improvements. And you could talk to players, especially during the early parts of fall camp and whatnot, about the cohesiveness and family. And some have said they didn't have that before. As we know, the prior regime actually had a split hiring. Head coach was hired separately from the defensive coordinator, both hired by Danny White. So it wasn't like, in this case, T. Will is Gus Malzahn's guy. Randy Shannon was Danny White's guy, not Josh Heupel's guy. That actually caused some friction in itself. We don't have that now, and he really embraced that and brought family to the table.
Yeah. You could see, I think back to that Memphis game in 2020 and the real division that you started to see between the offense and the defense. And I thought that was gone now, and it's a great point. It's pretty remarkable because, it wasn't all that long ago. Right. And
it feels like a lifetime.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And that kind of shows you, I think, why T. Will was the choice. Alumnus of the year, alumnus/alumna of the year. This goes to the former UCF Knight who's shown remarkable achievements on the field of play post their UCF career. Our nominees for this award: Gabe Davis of the Buffalo Bills in the NFL, Sean Johnson of NYCFC in MLS, Matthew Wright of the in the NFL, formerly at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and weightlifter Matty Rogers, who made the Olympics. This one was tough. Our fan winner was Matty Rogers, but the overall winner of the award, this one was again pretty close. Sean Johnson of NYCFC. This was really close between Sean, Gabe, and Matty. But Sean, I think, won it by basically one vote. And look, it was 5-3-2.
4-3-2.
4-3-2. Yeah. So, congrats to Sean. And listen, first UCF player to win an MLS Cup. He was the starting goalkeeper for NYCFC, and was absolutely pivotal in their run to the Cup, especially in the championship game. And, and Eric, I know you wanted to talk about this. Sean, we saw that talent a while ago, like 15 years ago. He was at UCF.
He was the highlight, when he was here with his a couple of years at UCF before going pro. I mean, his game has risen to a different level. I think he's the best goalkeeper in the MLS. He's the best goalkeeper in the United States. He's probably going to get screwed out of the World Cup because of politics, but to me right now, he's the best UCF pro athlete in any sport. He's played at a high level. Even this year, he's only allowed the second fewest goals in the MLS. He's got a chance to lead him to back-to-back MLS titles. Credit to Matty Rogers in the fan vote, by the way. She was tremendous. Yeah. That's awesome, too. Well, this was a record-breaking year for the Banneret Awards. I mean, we have just incredible fan support, so appreciate the voting on that. But Sean has been incredible, well-deserving of the award, edging out Matty Rogers. I think it was, to me, either him or Matty Rogers I would have been fine with. It was close, but Sean has been incredible.
I mean, when you get an MLS Cup MVP, I mean, it's hard not to get the win here.
And you win not just that, but you win the match in PKs with 2 saves.
Yeah,
too. I mean, that's go back and watch that performance, folks, if you want to see what Sean Johnson was able to do.
You better now before he goes to Apple and nobody sees it.
NYC, by the way, now in the 2022 MLS season, NYCFC has the second least goals allowed in the entire league.
Yep, Sean Johnson. Comeback player of the year. This goes to a UCF athlete who came back from an injury or other illness and performed above and beyond the call of duty. Our nominees this year for comeback athlete of the year. There it is. Okay. Diamond Battles from women's basketball. Remember, suffered that knee injury at the in the NCAA tournament last year. Kennedy Searcy of softball, who also suffered a knee injury. Alex Freeland for baseball, and Trillian Coles for football, who suffered a Achilles injury that was pretty devastating. This one was tough, because all these performances were really remarkable, and I thought award worthy. But the winner, Diamond Battles of UCF women's basketball. Yes, she's now at University of Georgia, but let's not forget all the things that she was able to do for UCF in her time here, particularly last year. Defensive Player of the Year in the American, Overall Player of the Year in the American. Her place, I think, in UCF basketball's legacy is solidified. And Bryson, I want to defer to you just how much Diamond really meant to this program.
Well, Diamond, I think, because we all were excited when all of the leading players came back for this season, but Diamond is the leader of that group. She is the one that just leads and facilitates all of the passing and really makes this team work. She's the one that really controls all the cogs in the machine that Coach Abe built. And her improvement, by the way, with going beyond the arc, that of course also helped as well. I mean, there's no really words to say how important Diamond's contributions were to this team to get to where they are today.
I think back to that first round game against Northwestern that UCF lost in the NCAA tournament, and when she was supposed to be the ace in the hole for UCF in that game. When she went down with that injury, I thought, oh man, we're not going to see Diamond Battles for at least a year. And she fought back, got back in time for the start of the season, and was just her best self. And we wish her the best of luck at the University of Georgia. We're going to miss her a lot. We're going to miss everybody from that team who went to Georgia a lot, but
not as much as Kyle will.
Not as much as Kyle will. That's right.
Hang in there, Kyle.
Breakout athlete of the year. We have a women's and a men's categories for this one. This goes to a UCF athlete who really burst onto the scene from one year to the next. For the women's, on the women's side, for breakout athlete of the year, Jada Cody of softball, Amber Olsen of volleyball, Destiny Thomas women's basketball, Latasha Smith of track and field, and Justine Molina of UCF softball. Those are your nominees. The winner of women's breakout athlete of the year, I think this was no surprise to anybody, Jada Cody of UCF softball. Eric Lopez, she was a legend this year.
That's an understatement. Just exploded in the scene in the sport of softball, All-American, breaking Stephanie Bess's 19-year-old record for RBIs. Nobody's even come close to that prior to Jada Cody. And, me and Bryson have argued off the air about this, whether she should be in this category. The reason she is, yeah, she was a really good player last year, but she went from a good player to a great player this year, to the point where now...
thing that I said, that she went from a good player that only Eric Lopez knows to a great player that every UCF fan knows.
You're right. She is probably among the most popular right now female athletes on the UCF campus. And, of course, just making news this week, joining Team USA. She's going to be the first UCF player ever to play for Team USA, the red, white, and blue, this August against Japan in an All-Star series. So she's breaking barriers, making an All-American, leading to the postseason. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And that's the senior national team. That's not the collegiate national team. That's the U.S. senior national team. The senior
national team. To put that in perspective, I looked this up. There's only been a handful of Team USA UCF players that have played for Team USA. Sean Johnson among them. But the last couple, only been a couple others that have played for Team USA while being a student athlete. Jada Cody joins Kim Wyatt, the goalkeeper for UCF women's soccer, and some lady named Michelle Akers. Ever heard of her? She's pretty good.
She might have been pretty good back in the day from what I hear.
Yeah, pretty good company.
The men's breakout athlete of the year. Nominees for this award, 4 of them. Ryan O'Keefe for football, 2 baseball guys, Andrew Sundin and Noah Orlando, and Teddy T-Tack of men's golf. The winner, and this was, it wasn't unanimous. It was, but he won the fan vote, as did Jada Cody, by the way. And I thought this was as obvious as it gets. Ryan O'Keefe from UCF football. Drew, Ryan O'Keefe ended his season. What I appreciated was the fact that his team asked him to step up, and he did that in spades. When Dylan Gabriel went down and Mikey Keene took over as the starting quarterback, Gus Malzahn's entire MO on offense was, look, we are going to get the ball to our best playmakers. And remember, Jalen Robinson got hurt too in the same game against Louisville. And the best playmaker on the team at that point was Ryan O'Keefe. And he stepped it up, helped out the true freshman quarterback, and just the cherry on top was that performance in the Gasparilla Bowl.
Absolutely. And the signs for this were from day one in the spring game, where he looked fantastic. And, the player that was supposed to be the number one guy, Jalen Robinson, largely struggled. And it just built from there. He just clicked in the Gus Malzahn offense, and he took a lot of extra time with Mikey Keene working on building chemistry. That's what, the good player to become a great player has to do. And it culminated in a bowl game where he flat out dominated. I mean, he was everywhere. You add the return yards to it. He had more total yards than any other player on the field, including Florida's quarterback, when you take return yards into consideration. I mean, he was all over the place.
Yeah, it was really fun to see him step into that. And a lot of times I thought that he knew, as the season went on, I think defenses knew even right away that, look, this is the guy that Gus is going to get the ball to. And not only did he still manage to get himself open in so many opportunities, to make plays for this team when they really needed it. You know, he took a lot of hits this year too.
He also helped facilitate. By being that number one guy, he allowed a guy like Brandon Johnson to become a touchdown machine in the red zone. That's not coincidence.
Okay. So there's your two breakout athletes of the year, Jada Cody for the women, Ryan O'Keefe for the men. Now let's move over to senior of the year. This award goes to a player who was in their final year at UCF who, you know, may not have been the biggest contributor statistically, but was somebody who their teammates really respected, was a real leader for their team, and someone who will remember for their contributions as a senior member of their athletic team. So men's and women's. On the men's side, our nominees for senior of the year: Cole Schneider for football, Noah Orlando for baseball, men's golf, Teddy Titak, and Mauricio Villalobos of men's soccer. And the winner of the men's senior of the year award, also the winner of the fan vote, Noah Orlando of UCF baseball, an Orlando native for the city, right? Edgewater High School graduate, was a 2-year player at Palm Beach State College, came back home, and in his final year hit .322, 26 runs batted in, 8 homers, 7 doubles, and in 54 games, and you know was really kind of and I'll go to Bryson on this one. He was really the linchpin of UCF's lineup, both at bat and in the field too.
Oh yeah, Noah, in a year where the bats were a little slow to get started, Noah was one of the few batters that were going from day one. I was very impressed with how much he really kind of broke out. That's why he was nominated for breakout athlete because he basically went from not being a mainline starter at all. Before this season, Noah only had 20 starts total.
Yeah.
And then
last year he hit 111.
In 30 games, 11 starts, he hit 111, and now he goes and hits 322 in his senior season. He made the most out of his final season, and Coach Lovely was able to get him in the lineup. He was a DH a lot this year, but one of the main things that I think really helped is that he served as the backstop when Alex Freeland was out for a month with his injury. He played 19 times at shortstop this year when Alex Freeland went down. And as Alex mentioned, when we talked to him upon his return, he did a great job doing it. And so he proved to be a guy that stepped up when the team needed him to. And I think that really deserves him, not only for being nominated for breakout and doing solid with that award, but I think senior of the year is where he truly shines, because when the younger player got hurt, the elder guy was like, all right, I'll take over and I'll keep it warm for you. All
right. So congratulations to Noah. Job well done on this senior year for him as well. Women's senior of the year. This was a volleyball and softball heavy category. 2 softball players, Gianna Mancha and Denali Schappacher. 2 volleyball players in Anne-Marie Watson and Narissa Moravec, and 1 basketball player in Masani Kaba. The winner of Women's Senior Athlete of the Year, believe it or not, her teammate won the fan vote, but she won the overall vote. Denali Schappacher won the fan vote, but the winner of the award overall, Gianna Mancha, Eric Lopez, who stepped in and has already started her professional career.
Yeah, she's been playing in the WPF for the Vipers. In fact, this week she faced off against Monica Abbott, in a pitcher's duel. So that's a cool story for her to say. She's been pitching very well. Oh, this is all the women's categories.
This was hard. This one was really hard.
Goodness. You mentioned Denali, well-deserved, top 10 in all the categories. The Sarasota News picked it up. So this is a big story there. But Gianna's a great choice, too. I mean, obviously was the ace of the team. And as anybody that's followed UCF softball, it always starts in the circle in pitching. And as we're going to see in this episode, pitching was was rewarded. And it started with Gianna Mancha. She was the ace. She threw a couple no-hitters. She set the tone. It had an incredible year, the best year of her career, and helped them lead to all the success with conference championships and the postseason run.
Yeah, we're going to miss her. She was fantastic for you.
Shout out to Anne-Marie Watson and Narissa Moravec, who were phenomenal. I mean, Watson, a local one as well. in that category.
Haggerty High School.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we always say this every year, but this year we really do it. Looking back, this is the strongest year when you look at the women's categories. Very tough to pick, and a lot of these categories was very highly debated and very close voting, maybe the closest ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that continues on also with the Freshman of the Year awards as well. We'll start with the Women's Freshman of the Year award. Our nominees: Ashley Griffin for softball, Sophia Viole of women's tennis, Zoe Alau of women's golf, and another softball player, Michaela Macario. For the Freshman of the Year, boy, this one was another tight one between your UCF softball players, but the win goes to Ashley Griffin. She won the fan vote, and she won the staff vote as well, and it was the fans who gave her the nod with that tiebreaker, Eric Lopez. But again, this was another really, really tough one for all of us here on these women's awards categories. What a year for women's sports at UCF.
Tell me about it. I stayed up till 3 a.m. to figure this out. So look, I mean, Michaela Macario won the Freshman of the Year in the American, but if you look at the postseason, and I think this is where the fans kind of were influenced, Ashley Griffin had a heck of a postseason, hit nearly 400.
She was a really quiet, important
yes.
part of that lineup late in the season.
No doubt. After the first month of the season where she kind of was learning, playing in a Division I level, she took it to a different level. She would have these quiet big hits. I think back to the RBI double to tie the game against Virginia Tech to set up the extra inning drama. Even in the postseason, she hit the home run against Michigan in the regional final to really kind of break the game open and push the cushion.
Yeah, what a moment that was too.
She drove in to run to get him on the board in the winner's bracket game against Michigan. She just had big hits in the postseason run. Macario defensively was fantastic. You could have given it to any of these players, but I think Griffin's a well-deserved winner on this award.
Men's Freshman of the Year. This one was also pretty tough, and we had some good diversity here in this. Mikey Keene, quarterback for UCF football. Lex Bodecker of baseball, and Andrew Sundin from baseball, and Darius Johnson of men's basketball. In the final vote for Men's Freshman of the Year, this one was pretty tight. Went 4-3-2, but the winner from UCF men's basketball, Darius Johnson. And Bryson, it was maybe this year did not end the way that we know for a fact it did not end the way that the fans wanted for UCF men's basketball. But one of the main, especially with a lot of movement on this roster, but one of the key cog that Johnny Dawkins is building this team around is that young point guard Darius Johnson. He showed such tremendous growth throughout the course of the season, didn't he?
Oh yeah. So this, in my opinion, is the strongest men's category in this Bannies, because when you look at Sundin, Johnson, Keene, and Bodecker, all of them, I think, did such great jobs in their first year, and I can't wait to see what they will do in the future. But in the case of Darius, I think Darius proved how indispensable and at the core he is to this team growth. I mean, when you look at the players, because men's basketball has basically made a really huge shift in the roster this season. Some of there are not many people from last teams that stayed, but one of the key ones that did were Darius Johnson and also CJ Walker, which, if you remember from earlier in the season when things got a little bit heated on the bench, Darius was the one that separated CJ Walker from the rest of the thing. And I think that really showcases how much, I think, respect that he's gotten with CJ and the bond between them. And
not just him, but the rest of the team too. You could tell that the 18-year-old kid, they really, by the end of the season, you could see how much they really respected his ability and his leadership on the floor.
Oh yes. I've been here. I believe, if I remember correctly, people have been talking about how he plays like a veteran. And I think that that's a big moniker for why he got this award. It's just his first season, but he's playing like a veteran. And now that the rest of the seniors have exhausted their eligibility or left elsewhere, he can now really take that leadership control of this team. And I think we can see this unit gel much better than I think they did last year.
Yeah.
And it's all because of Darius.
Let's move over to transfers of the year. Men's transfer of the year. Our nominees in that award category: Brandon Johnson for football, Connor Stain for baseball, Sheikh Mbake Zhang of men's basketball, and Nick Taylor of men's soccer. This is a really strong category too, I think. We had some really good performances for some transfers this year. The winner, however, of men's transfer athlete of the year, he won the fan vote and he won the overall vote as well. And I'm really gonna miss this guy because he was really fun to watch. And Drew, you mentioned it before. Brandon Johnson, wide receiver for UCF football, took advantage of the attention that Ryan O'Keefe was getting on the other side of the field to score 11 touchdowns on 38 catches, 565 yards. Actually managed to sneak himself, I think, into the top 15 all-time at UCF in touchdown catches in just one season. The son of the great Charles Johnson, former MLB catcher, Eric Lopez, Florida Miami Marlins fan, very big fan of that guy. I was a huge Charles Johnson fan. One of the biggest thrills, in fact, after senior night, when I went down and I actually met Brandon and his dad Charles, and I was like, Charles Johnson. He was like surprised that I kind of recognized him. And I had a really good conversation with the two of them, father and son, and I told them, they both laughed at this. I was like, it's nice to be in a family that's known for catching things. And has a natural ability to do that for sure. And Brandon Johnson really did that in spades this year, Drew. He was fantastic.
Well, we knew he can do it. He had a good sophomore year. I believe he was team leader in receiving at Tennessee before he kind of got stuck in the doghouse. Come over to UCF, played a very pivotal senior role. He was going to be the number 3 wideout, moved up when Jalen Robinson went down and never gave it up. And it was because he was so dependable, especially in the red zone. 11 receiving touchdowns. And you look at that number and it just jumps out of the page. He was dependable. And when you have a freshman quarterback who's still working on letting the game slow down, still trying to build confidence, dependability is the best thing you can offer. And he made a lot of tough catches, a lot of good sideline catches that he's tiptoeing in there.
He was Chris Cartering his way to the end zone a lot of times there, and that's what you want from a fifth-year senior receiver who's playing with a true freshman quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. You got to help your guy out because that's going to build his confidence.
Well, and the thing is, the quarterback's job, throw it where either the receiver gets it or nobody gets it. And he's just one of those guys who's able to make very difficult catches, and the results speak for themselves.
Yeah. So congrats to Brandon
Very
Johnson
fitting, by the way. Very fitting. 25 years ago, the old man, Charles Johnson, wins the World Series for the Marlins against a team we won't mention who they beat. Turn on. And now his son wins a Bannies Award. 25 years apart.
I know. It's something. I'll tell you.
Can we take the award back now? If we can switch the World Series?
Nope. It's too late. That's not going to happen. Women's transfer of the year. Our nominees in this category. Kama Woodall of softball, Claudia Dillon of volleyball, Brittany Floyd of track and field, and Janisha Rowe for softball. Again, 2 softball players. And sometimes, Eric Lopez, I get a little worried when we see 2 players from the same team, kind of, because you think, oh man, they're going to kind of like take votes from one another.
Sure.
Not in this case. Kama Woodall was the winner of the fan vote, the winner of the overall vote. And by the way, we'll talk a little bit more about her later in the program. But wow, what a great year she was, and she peaked at the right time.
The 2 greatest UCF one-year transfers: Mike Hughes, football; Kama Woodall, softball. Kama Woodall is the Mike Hughes of softball. She was 9-19 at East Carolina, so this was not like a highly touted, hey, wow, what a big move.
Wasn't really all her fault, though, to be fair.
No, as we found out. But she just was incredible. She was like a co-number 1 with Mancha. She was the perfect complement to Mancha in the 1-2 punch. This team does not accomplish all the goals they do without her. In fact, she won a must-win at Wichita State Game 2 after they lost the Friday night game. They have to win that game. If they don't win that game, Wichita State are the conference champions. She holds Wichita State to 1 run in what is considered the Coors Field of softball in Wichita, where you can hit a pop-up for a home run. and then comes in relief and closes it out to win the regular season title. She then pitches and gets a shout out against the rival South Florida in East Carolina, Jeff, in her return to win the conference tournament. We won't even get into what she did in the regionals because that's coming later. That's called the tease, but an incredible impact for her. Yeah,
and it was fun to watch her pitch late in the year, and like I said, we'll hear a little bit more from her in a little bit. We're going to take a break in a little bit, but our last award that we're going to pass out before our break. We're going to do the photo of the year award. Now, I know this is a podcast, and it's impossible for us to actually show you the photos, but I do encourage you to take a look at our nominees. Both of our photographers this year, Noah Goldberg and, of course, Derek Warden, were remarkable at a bunch of different events. I'm so thankful for the two of them because they are both true artists with their lenses, and we had them each nominate what they thought were their 3 best photos from the year. We all voted on which one was the best. We had the fans vote on which one was the best. I highly encourage you to go check them out. There were some really, really amazing photos that they put forth, but one of them captured one of the great moments, which was a photo of Kama Woodall and Shannon Doherty celebrating UCF winning the regional, Eric Lopez, right after the final out. And to me, that captured just the unbridled joy of not just winning, but doing something for the first time in program history. There's a little bit of every emotion in there, like not just the joy, but the shock of it. Like, oh my God, we really just did this, didn't we?
Right, and no question. And it's a great picture taken. And then look at the 2 people involved. Shannon Doherty, who basically told the coaches after UCF was not going to host the American Conference tournament because the league took it away from them. He's like, they're not going to be able to take away us hosting a regional. They set that goal, and then Doherty set the tone, as we'll talk about later in the year in the opener. And here's Kama Woodall throwing the last pitch, and both of them. It's really fitting in a lot of ways that those 2 in the photo, because it really tells a lot of the story of this team's Team 21, as they call it, for UCF softball in 2022, a historic team.
So many good photos that these 2 guys had,
and there were some that were not even added to this. There was a lot of feedback, right. Like where is the people wanted the O'Keefe photo from Gasparilla that Noah took.
I know, and we too were like, Noah, why don't we put that one? And this goes to show you how serious these guys take it. Noah was like, I get it, but I don't feel like mine was the best of all the photos of that moment. And so he's like, I left it to them. I was like, you guys nominate the photos that you want. And he's like, I know that was a great moment that I captured, but I didn't quite capture it as well as others did. And he just didn't feel comfortable with it. But, I respect that tremendously because it shows you how good these 2 guys are at what they do. So guys, make sure you follow them. Follow the Noah Goldberg and _DS Warden on Twitter. They're amazing art. And on Instagram too. All right. We're going to take a break. When we return, Eric, Drew, Bryson, and I will be back for some team awards, a few more individual awards, including the big ones, Game of the Year, Athletes of the Year, Teams of the Year, when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast and the 2022 Black and Gold Banneret Awards Show. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, the 2022 Black and Gold Banneret Awards. I'm Jeff Sharon. Eric Lopez is with me, along with Andrew Glukoff and Bryson Turner. We continue with our awards with the men's and women's individual performances of the year. These are games which where one person just kind of took over and showed us how great they truly are. All right, we'll start with the men. Individual performance of the year on the men's side. Ryan O'Keefe in the Gasparilla Bowl, which we kind of mentioned earlier. Connor Stain, 7 innings of shutout ball against Ole Miss. We kind of broke the rules a little bit on this one. Darren Green and Brandon Mahan against Michigan, going 8 for 8 from 3-point range in the second half. Jorge Campoy's hat trick against Florida Gulf Coast for men's soccer. And the doubles pair of Cronhay and White beating the number 1 pair in their first match together in men's tennis against Ohio State. The winner in the men's individual performance of the year. This one was a little bit tighter than people thought, but I think we all knew who was really going to win it. The winner of the fan vote and the winner of the overall vote, Ryan O'Keefe in the Gasparilla Bowl. Drew, when you look back at that single performance, that was obviously his crowning achievement from last year. But the other thing is it was a complete performance running the ball, catching the ball, and returning kicks for Ryan O'Keefe.
That's correct. If you add all his total yards, you end up with 251 total yards because he did have 2 kickoff returns for 56 yards. The next highest person was Emory Jones of Florida, the quarterback, with only 233. He outgained everybody on the field. So, that just shows how dominating performance he had in that game. He put his mark everywhere, scoring touchdowns. He did have a touchdown catch, making a big run, 74-yard rush, because he ended up with 4 carries for 110 yards. So he was busy. He had the second most carries on the team, and anytime he got the ball, things happened, and they couldn't stop him. Florida had no answer for Ryan O'Keefe, none.
Yeah, 195 yards from scrimmage in that game. Over 250 all-purpose yards in that
251 all-purpose yards. Game high.
Did it all, and scored the what turned out to be the cherry on top touchdown in that game as well. Women's individual performance of the year. Our nominees for this award: McKenna Melville with a 27-28 against Florida State for UCF volleyball. Brittany Smith in the first round game against Florida with a career high of 26 points. Two track nominees here. Brittany Floyd breaking a 19-year-old heptathlon record, and Renaya Jones winning 3 gold medals in the American Indoor Championships. Women's golf, Pat Pidden setting a 54-hole record. Kama Woodall, her 11-inning performance against Michigan in the NCAAs. A lot of nominees here. Jada Cody, her 2 home runs in the game before that against Villanova. This one was tough, not gonna lie. We talked about how tough it was with to pick which was the best individual performance or women's sports this year. But in the women's individual performance, Kama Woodall won the fan vote and won the overall vote with that in 11 innings. How many pitches did she throw in that game again?
181.
181 pitches in 11 innings against the Michigan Wolverines, getting UCF the second win of the regional, and that was the moment in that extra inning game. Probably, and it's a nominee obviously for Game of the Year, but what an individual performance! Kama Woodall got it done.
10 strikeouts, only gave up the 2 runs, gave her team a chance until they finally figured out offensively Michigan's pitching at the end of the game. But to do it, beat 2 All-American pitchers, because Michigan threw both their aces, Storako and Bobie, in that game. And Bryson, you were the media, you were in the stands. How hot was it there?
It was so hot that I ended up getting a sunburn on my face, and it registered a low-grade fever afterwards. It was Florida heat at its worst, honestly.
So while Bryson was struggling in those conditions, Kama was actually getting better during the game in the conditions. Remarkable performance for Kama Woodall. A legendary performance that will be remembered for a long time for those that were in attendance or watched on ESPN too.
No doubt about it. Gosh, put that on UCF Day on ESPNU, right? Give me that game right there. We move over to story of the year. This one, it's pretty obvious how this one went, but there were a lot of really good stories. But if you're going to pick what's the biggest story of the year in UCF athletics, there really is only one. The 3 nominees were UCF basketball, women's basketball, finally breaking through and winning the American Athletic Conference for the first time. Orlando hosting the NCAA softball regional, and UCF getting the victory, of course, which we've talked about. And then UCF winning or finally getting their invitation to the Big 12 Conference. Believe it or not, hey, this is one of those things where like the fan vote from UCF softball, man, did they come to play? Because softball actually won the fan vote.
Yeah, riding the wave.
But
riding the wave, baby.
But this is why the fan vote only gets one vote out of all of us. And like sometimes we as a staff have to step in and be like, listen, this is the big story of the year, and it's UCF going to the Big 12 Conference. And Drew, I want to get you in on this. You and I have talked many times about UCF's conference affiliation shenanigans over the years. This is the big story. We for years have said one day UCF is going to reach the biggest of the big time, and now they're there.
You can make an argument that, and granted it's kind of young, this could be the story of the decade for UCF. When you look at where they started in 1990 in Division I in the American South, America South, and folded and merged into the Sun Belt, and then it kind of goes from there to the ASUN, to with the MAC and the football, to Conference USA to American. The progression that happened from this little teeny commuter school in Orlando to the largest school in the country with the most beds on campus in any state school, in other words, not a commuter school, the transformation from child to adult has been nothing short of amazing to watch in real time. We all are either have or are currently experiencing parts of it. And to see it all culminate and getting brought into a power conference with, that has a payday that's going to dwarf anything UCF's ever had. Mm-hmm. It's life-changing for the school. We know that a good athletic program yields benefits in other areas for the school. When it comes to like applications and quality of students, stuff, it matters. So this matters not only in athletics, it matters outside of athletics. This helps elevate the school profile to the next level.
Not just within the school, like you were saying, but it's, UCF was a curiosity. When you talk, it's hard for us kind of to perceive this, and Eric, I want to get you in on this. We in the UCF Orlando sphere of influence know what this school's about, right? But when you talk about nationally speaking, right, and we're starting to see that with some of our newer friends from the Big 12 who we've been interacting with on social media, the thought, UCF was more or less still a curiosity, even as late as 2017, 2018, during the 25-game football winning streak. Now, people are going to know, right, Eric? Like, this is, when you're part of this, you're part of the big time.
It's the success they've had on the field, the credit to the players and the coaches and the administration, Danny White, obviously, that they've made all this happen on the field, because there's a reason why UCF's going to be in the Big 12 and South Florida's not. And I think a big part of that is the commitment to success on the field with facilities, and also the success they've had on the field there. So this is obviously significant. Now, Drew, I'm a little disappointed at you. I figured, because I would argue, is this the biggest story? Are we going to the Big 12? Are we going to the Big 14? Are we going to the Big 16, Drew? I mean,
they do have the Big 16 trademarked.
There you go.
They've had that. They had that.
Wait, I thought somebody else had that trademark.
No, it's the Big 12 conference has it. They trademarked it years ago. So I mean, it can happen, and it still might. And this story, we thought it was cut and dry, and we thought it was okay. UCF's joined the Big 12. Boom. Then this whole thing with the Pac-12 happened, and now it's like, okay, well, what are we getting? What version are we getting? And short of anything really ridiculous happen, which nothing points towards it, UCF's going to end up in this much nicer conference with much nicer staff status and stature, and they may be bringing some guys from the West along. I mean, this is becoming they talked about when the American was forming, looking at becoming a nationwide conference. No, this is on the verge of becoming a nationwide conference. Barely missing on the Pacific time zone, but close enough with the Arizona schools that you can throw a pebble and you're in the Pacific time zone. the other thing to keep in mind is, remember, 2016, Big 12 looked into expanding, and you had this dog and pony show that UCF had to do, along with, Memphis and South Florida and Tulane and all these other schools.
Typos were made.
Research was not properly done. Typos were made. But the truth is, I guarantee you the stuff from that was remembered, because aside from the on-field resume that UCF has developed in recent years, and that resume has been nothing short of fantastic, there was an aggressive off-the-field plan that has only exponentially jumped since Terry Mahajer took over. But it was aggressive to begin with. And I guarantee you that the aggressiveness that the UCF administration had towards development and growth played a role in the positive view that the Big 12 had. Because, obviously you don't want complacency. That's what hurt South Florida now, is they were complacent. And now you're seeing all these changes in indoor practice fields coming up. It's only 15 years after UCF had one. On-campus stadiums coming up. It's all, you're looking at 17 for the.
Give them credit, better late than never, and it's going to pay off, because they're going to battle FAU for bragging rights in the American.
It's because they're seeing you're seeing the results of what positive facilities planning has. On the flip side, UCF getting locked out of the Big East when USF gets involved. UCF starts looking at maybe that garage of an arena is not the answer, which it certainly wasn't. And that
on a credit too, Steve Orsini never gets brought up. I know, he kind of helped set up those facilities, hired George O'Leary, who obviously kind of put football, really kind of put UCF on the, up to date as far as what Division I football was about, right? Like, to me, George O'Leary's accomplished contributions are off the field more than on the field, because UCF was behind the times prior to George O'Leary as far as what it takes to be a successful football program in Division I.
UCF, look at the program when he got here. They were a bad MAC program that had no discipline whatsoever. Then you look at the other sports, they were an ASUN quality department. And the Atlantic Sun back then was a very low major. UCF, I think
the conference rankings in men's basketball, the ASUN was the lowest at the time.
I one of the bottom. They may not have been the bottom, but they were close to it.
Sure.
I think the UCF's highest seed in the NCAA tournament was 14th. 14 seed. I mean, that's,
right, as an auto bid from the ASUN.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But that's another person that should get credit for this is Johnny Dawkins, for giving men's basketball credibility with the Big 12, because the Big 12 loves basketball. A lot of basketball schools there. They're very picky about it. That also helped, because, yes, football drives all this, but the other sports being solid and successful helps this. You're not getting in on just one sport.
UCF went, I think, 3 years with every team having winning records.
Yes, great stat.
Men's basketball has kind of squeaked through in that last season, but 3 years in a row, every program had a winning record. That matters. You're creating a culture of winning. And like we talked about when George O'Leary took over, they had a bad culture, the football program. They also didn't know how to win. I mean, we made a joke about UCF in games where they'd find ways to lose and take defeat from the jaws of victory. That was a culture at UCF back then, and that changed. Once UCF moved on campus, the entire dynamic of the athletic program changed. The attitude changed, the fan support changed. It was just, even though UCF had a winless season in 15 and the wheels fell off, it was nothing like 2004, where you had to drive 20 minutes after the game.
Well, and people still went to the games. I don't think the fan base has gotten enough credit for the support they still gave the football team that year in 15, where it was winless. That was an unwatchable team, honestly. And there were still, I went to those games, Drew, there were still 30,000 people going, when really, in other places, they probably would have had 5 people going to the games.
I was one of them. I was a season ticket holder from 2006 to 2016 when my seats got converted. So
This has been years in the making. This has been years in the making. It's the biggest story of the year off the field. And I think the softball, real quick on the softball, that's the biggest on the field story as far as 20 years on the making of winning a regional. So it's pretty two giant stories. But yeah, the Big 12 story, obviously. And that'll continue to be a big story as this conference evolves and then step on the field in about a year.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is that, we're going to see, I think that the next couple of big stories that we're going to see are going to be part and parcel of this particular story. For example, the TV contract, what happens in UCF's final year in the American, what happens when UCF finally joins the Big 12, which teams become that surprise team.
Future scheduling will be
a big one. There's just a branch of stories that we're going to see. Bryson has one more word. Go ahead, Bryson.
Yes, sorry. Drew, I forgot I had muted myself for a second. Drew, you mentioned that 0-15 team and how the fan support still remained there. I still have this tweet on my desktop. It's that showed a photo of what it said is now UCF tight end Max Holler, the brother of Alec Holler, holding up a sign as he was attending the UCF USF game saying, "I'd rather be 0-12 than have a USF diploma." I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I just think it's such a great example of like the fan base staying behind this team during such a down year from a record standpoint, and their dedication was rewarded.
Absolutely. You look at the numbers. The worst attendance that year was East Carolina with 23,734. You go to 04, which was the other, winless team.
There are some other teams.
12,083 Kent State at the end of the year.
Yeah. By the way, that was being charitable. I was at that game.
Oh, I was at that game. I was in the marching band. I was on the field, and there could not have been more than 6,000 people.
I think it was raining too. I mean, it was
terrible. It was an
bad
awful
weather.
Day.
Goes to show you 23,000 people. There are some MAC teams who, in a good year, when they're having a good year, there were a lot of other G5. They don't draw.
You're being kind. Nobody in the MAC. Yeah, you're being kind. Nobody in the MAC draws. Yeah, nobody
of that.
Yeah,
nobody. Yeah. You look at like Eastern Michigan, Ball State. These schools, they can't draw. UCF, when they were winless, and this was a bad winless team. It wasn't like the 15 team, which was really talented, just had no leadership. This was just a bad team where you had your best offensive players having to play defense. Still getting 12,000, and we know they talk about the whole 15,000 line. But I mean, they had 20. They had over 20,000 for homecoming on a bad team.
Now imagine what we're going to have this year.
Oh yeah.
Are there going to be some expectations? I mean, this is going to. Our last year in the American, this is going to be a lot of fun.
They're on the they're very close to selling out all season tickets. I know they're very close on the line. They haven't announced a sellout, so they still got a few left. But I mean, they're close. They're real close.
So that takes us to the game of the year. These are the big awards. I think these next the 7 awards. These are the big ones to me. Or the next 8 awards. Right? Game of the year, play of the year, moment of the year, the male and female athlete of the year, and the men's and women's team of the year. And we split game of the year into 2, men's and women's. Men's game of the year, I think this one was probably pretty easy. We had the Gasparilla Bowl for football, the Boise State game, the season opener for football. People forget how good that game was. The baseball's win over number 2 Ole Miss at home in extra innings, and of course men's basketball beating Juwan Howard and Michigan in the or at home. And the winner here, I think, is pretty obvious. These were all really fun games to be at, fun games to attend, but the Gasparilla Bowl was more than just a game. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was a cultural event here in the state of Florida, and for UCF to get that victory, Drew, in the fashion that they did. Okay, so the game didn't have like the most spectacular finish ever, but we will remember that game as long as we live. The day UCF finally beat Florida.
Absolutely. The third time they got a chance at them, the first time away from the swamp. And, fans of the opposing side can make all the excuses they want. You play to win the game.
Lord knows they're good at it.
Yeah, they're very good at it. But you play to win the game, and Herm Edwards has that nailed down. UCF, I think the score was not as close as the game was closer than the game really was. I mean, UCF played a real physical game. They were spirited. The fans
dominated
were
the
into
second half physically. That fourth quarter,
they beat them into a pulp.
That where the offensive line took over. And go back and watch the highlights, guys, because that was an offensive line imposing their will on Florida.
Well, and it's because of Isaiah Bowser. I mean, he's a bruising back, and they rode him hard. Over 30 carries. I mean, he worked.
First game back after the injury. Well, not really his first game back. It was most action since that injury.
He had a few weeks. He had a couple weeks, 2.5 weeks of rest to really get back into it. So, I mean, he was in about as good shape as he's been all year. I mean, he looks great. The team looked great. And that was the style of ball we were hoping to see all year, because that was the style of ball when they didn't have it, teams didn't respect the running game. Mm-hmm. And that's when things struggled, when Mikey Keene was first as on his quarterback, and they were having to rely on him more than they needed to. It's because the running game was so ineffective. You got the bruiser third, it's like the Navy idea. The goal is third into the fourth quarter. You've worn down that defense, and you're just going to beat it into them and ram it down their throat. That's what UCF did, and it became very successful in the second half.
Gosh. Whenever I'm in a bad mood, I just flip on the YouTube of that game, and I feel much better.
Got to beat those hated Gators.
Yeah, no, I feel much better about it. Go ahead.
You
quickly,
know what
Bryson.
those two football nominations have in common, though? Isaiah Bowser having an absolutely phenomenal game, and he's back next year. I swear, if he had been playing a full year healthy, he would be nominated for transfer of the year.
Probably athlete of the year.
Yeah, I mean, he would be up there.
The injuries cost him. Yeah, it would have been a what if they're athlete of the year. But hey, he's back this year, so we'll see what happens.
Hey, Thunder and Lightning, man. Johnny Richardson and Isaiah Bowser. This is going to be fun. If they can stay healthy, this is going to be a good ride. Women's game of the year. We had some good ones in this category. Softball beating Michigan in 11 innings in the NCAA region, which we talked about. Women's basketball, the American Athletic Conference championship game against USF. That was one of the most intense basketball games I think I can ever remember UCF playing. The outdoor American Athletic Conference championship in track and field. Women's basketball's first round victory over Florida at UConn. And softball, boy, there were a number of softball games we could have picked. Well, we picked two of them. Obviously, the Michigan win, but also their walk-off win in the season opener against nationally ranked Georgia. Women's game of the year. The winner, and I think this was easy, from the fan vote, and we agreed with them, the 11-inning victory over Michigan. Dramatic Eric Lopez, national TV, 11 innings. We talked about how great Kama Woodall was. The extra innings, it was just... You and I have said this before. That game encapsulates what has made college softball the sport of the moment right now in college sports. I think it is really having a moment right now. The edge of your seat drama in that atmosphere for the entire time, especially in extra innings when UCF finally came back, tied the game, and then finally won it in extras. You could cut the intensity with a knife, and it was just a wonderful day of sports.
It was, and considering what was at stake, it was a winner's bracket game. The winner was going to the regional final. You knew what the forecast was weather-wise, that whoever lost that game was probably going to have an uphill battle, because odds are they weren't going to be able to play later that day, which means they would have had to play multiple games on Sunday. And it would have been a long, long run. And here we are, bottom of the seventh. UCF's down their last out, last strike. Maddie Bejarano ties the game up with a base hit to right center. They go to extra innings. She wins it, past first baseline to win it. The euphoria in the building was incredible. It's, to me, when you look at the biggest sporting event in the history of UCF on campus.
Yep.
USF win, Black Friday. The Memphis conference title wins, 17 and 18. Men's soccer against Missouri State, 2019, the Gal Jennings golden goal, and this game. Those are, to me, your Mount Rushmores of all-time wins on campus in UCF. That's their first. They win that game, set them up to win the regional and advance to the first time in front of a packed house. It's the greatest win in the history of the program. It was a game that nobody that ever watched it, which was a big number on ESPN2, will ever forget, and a big crowd too in the complex.
What a moment. What a moment it was for the
Drew, it's nothing better than beating Michigan, is it?
Oh man, I have certain words I want to say, and I'm not allowed.
Well,
to.
I want your perspective because you're not a softball person, but you're a UCF person.
You are an Ohio State fan, also, so you must have enjoyed that.
I can't say I'm not a softball person. I'm not a softball aficionado, but I watch a lot more softball than I do soccer. I'll be honest. I watch a lot more softball than I actually watch more softball than I do baseball.
Ooh, welcome aboard. Thank you.
But that's not new. But that's neither here nor there. Anytime that Michigan loses makes my warm heart beat faster. I mean, that's just beautiful, especially in dramatic fashion. And after they won, the Wolverines beat UCF earlier in the year. So there was revenge on the mind.
Yeah,
correct.
And then they beat him again.
Beat him twice. By the way, Michigan, a legacy program with Carol Hutchins, the all-time winningest coach in the history of college softball. So, I mean, it's not like we beat, some random program. We beat a marquee, legendary program to do it.
Yeah.
So, by the way, good year for UCF beating Michigan in sports, huh? I mean, shout out to men's basketball. Beating one of the great second halves in the history of men's basketball. Kyle Nash, I want to represent him on that because him and I still can't get over that game. And one of the most thrilling second halves, UCF Michigan basketball as well.
I think that's the most dominant half of any sport I've ever seen.
Amazing.
Gosh, there's such good moments this year, some of them. Speaking of moments, play of the year. We're going to get to play of the year and moment of the year. But first, play of the year.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else there, Jeff.
The play of the year, we have 5 nominees here for play of the year. And a little bit of a surprise, but Darren Green's buzzer beater against ECU. Shannon Doherty's this probably could have been like the all Shannon Doherty category with all of her walk-off homers. But we chose her walk-off homer against Georgia in the season opener. Diamond Battles' game-winning reverse layup against Arkansas for women's basketball. Riley Wash's walk-off hit against number 2 Ole Miss that capped off that game. And Savannah Adams' pinch hit home run against Houston. There were a lot of – these are some really, really huge plays. But the winner of the fan vote and the overall vote, Shannon Doherty's home run and a bat flip for the ages against Georgia. Eric, that made like national social media headlines, Shannon Doherty's home run against Michigan on opening night.
And it still is. In fact, that play right now has advanced to the American Conference Play of the Year in the final. They're in the final round next week.
Shannon Doherty's out here wielding so much social media clout. It's really incredible. Something to behold right now.
Hey, you got to point out, though, that single play nearly won for Call of the Year.
Naturally, yeah, the guy blew. It was a night. All right, cool, whatever.
Yeah, the guy did a pretty good job on that one. Not to mention the fact that MLB picked that one up.
MLB picked it up. I mean, it was a big storm. I mean, I've never seen my phone like it was after game. I mean, it was an incredible game, but that moment, and really, let's give credit to the crew at ESPN Plus, Major Hal, and the students that run the camera, Lucas, and all the guys. Because you mentioned it, Jeff. It wasn't just a random play. It was the way to hit the home runs going to left field, which is always dramatic because now you're thinking is it fair? Is it foul? She hits the home run.
Is it going to hit someone's car?
Right. It goes gone. You see her celebrating with the bat flip. The team is in celebration. It was incredible television. Yeah, incredible television there, pandemonium. And Bryson, you were there and you brought up a great point to me because we were debating because there are a lot of people voted for the Savannah Adams pinch hit home run, and rightfully so, which beat Houston because without that they probably don't host the conference, host the regional. Manny Bejarano's walk-off hit against Michigan wasn't even nominated. It was just too many choices. But Bryson, there's a couple reasons why this is the correct call with the Doherty play because of the dramatics of it, obviously from a visual standpoint. But this set the tone for the season, as you pointed out. It was you could sense it in that building that, hey, this was not only special for tonight, but this could set the tone for something special throughout the year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Shannon, of course, was the one that made the premonition of they can't take regionals away, and that ended up proving prophetic. There's also the fact that, the very first game of the season against a nationally ranked opponent, and you take them to extra innings. I mean, when you go through a gauntlet like that, a big test like that right out of the gate, and you come away with the win like that, I mean, that kind of gives you the whole, like, we can do anything after doing that. And to do that in the first game of the season, I think absolutely set the tone for what was going forward. And not just for Doherty individually, considering she did 2 more walk-offs after that, but for the team for the rest of the season.
Yeah. This is the equivalent of the Mike Hughes play. Like, I think the Savannah Adams play and even the Bejarano play is more the Trey Neal play, the interception against Memphis. You could argue that was a more important play than the Mike Hughes kickoff return against USF. But the Mike Hughes play is a play that everybody remembers where they were, because you just don't see that. And I think Shannon Doherty's the same thing. Everybody remembers where they were when she hit that walk-off. And I think that's the equivalent there that I would describe. So I think everybody, and clearly he's been proven.
Not to poo-poo that a little bit. I would argue it's more like, if you remember from 2017, to sort of compare it, the Adrian Killens 96-yard run against Memphis early in the season, because you're thinking, because after that I'm thinking, whoa, this is a different UCF team that we're watching here. There's something magic is happening.
I think right. From a narrative, that's a good point. But that didn't make the national headlines. True. like the Mike Hughes did or the Doherty. But I know where you're saying. You're right. Killies was kind of that statement that, hey, this is going to be a special year. That's a valid, good comparison there. Yeah.
All right, that takes us to moment of the year. This one was pretty easy for us, I think. Softball winning the Orlando Regional. Women's basketball clinching the American Athletic Conference at home against Cincy and cutting down the nets. Softball learning that they're hosting the regional by watching the selection show. Football, Mackenzie Milton finishing up his career at the Hula Bowl, a remarkable moment. But the winner, this one was about as easy as it gets. Even though, again, the UCF softball fans just coming out in droves picking UCF winning the regional as the fan vote winner. The winner of the moment of the year for UCF, I think we can all agree on this one. Ryan O'Keefe's touchdown catch against Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl, where he throws up the deuces in honor of the late Otis Anderson. It was, we talked about I know, Eric, you're a big fan of numerology around here. Same length touchdown catch as Otis's famous touchdown catch where he threw up the deuces in the American Championship in 2018. But this one was not just really the clincher against Florida. And Drew, I want to go to you on this. This wasn't just the clincher against Florida, but to pay tribute to Otis and the tragedy surrounding his death in a moment like that was, for me, that was one of the most in that game, in that moment against that opponent. For me, it was one of the most emotional moments, I think, in UCF history.
It's up there as far as from a single moment. They had Otis's uniform on the sideline. They carried it around. He became the spiritual motivation of this team heading into the bowl game because
it was the first game after his death.
Yes, because of the tragic situation that led to his premature passing. And how beloved he was by not only the program, but by fans. I mean, fans, I don't want to say gobbled it up because I made it kind of trivialized, but they embraced, the support for Otis and everything he brought to this school. He bled for this school. And it's a tribute also to the fan base who recognized the work that these players put into it. And to have, a 54-yarder that matches the exact yardage and do the exact same thing. I guarantee you, Ryan O'Keefe had no idea that was a 54-yard touchdown play. He wasn't thinking that. He had in his mind, he broke it free. He wanted to throw up the deuces for a friend. And, it just became the perfect moment that just encapsulates how special college athletics really is. It goes beyond just the sport. It covers the fan base, the community at large, and they all embraced it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, Drew, and I also want to bring this into point. So one college football writer, Steve Helwick, posted Noah's photo of that moment when Ryan O'Keefe threw up the deuces, and Noah actually responded to that tweet where he said that it certainly helped tell an amazing story of a physically and emotionally strong UCF team that overcame a lot to get to that moment. I think that, we do talk about how the individual of that moment, but I think it also is important to bring up that, the unfortunate passing of Otis Anderson was just one of just many things that this team had to overcome over the course of the season. Everybody getting injured, including the head coach. I mean, it was just, it's an emotional catharsis that I think this fan base got in that moment that really makes it what it is on multiple levels.
Let's take it to another degree. There's that one angle that has the Florida player down on the ground as he's got the deuces up and
the UCF side of the stadium behind it too.
Going absolutely insane. There's a different view on this is the coming of age of UCF. You add the whole Big 12 piece, beating the top state school on a neutral playing field, and the fact that they're leaving them in the dust, essentially, according to that picture. It says a lot. It just shows the growth of UCF as a school, as a community, not only just that one game in itself, but in general.
Yeah. Wow. What a moment it was. And like I said, whenever I need a pick me up, I watch the YouTube of that game.
He still cries.
I still cry. I'm not afraid to admit it. All right. That takes us to our final 4 awards, and these are the 2 big ones, men's and women's, the athletes of the year and the teams of the year. And we are going to go first with athlete of the year. First, the men's athlete of the year, our nominees, Ryan O'Keefe, who is second, all AAC second team. We talked about him earlier. Luca Dorado of men's soccer, first team all conference, led UCF men's soccer in goals with 13, including 6 game winners. Johnny Travali of UCF men's golf, who led his team with the 7th lowest scoring average in a single season in program history, 3 top 5s and a win. Darren Green Jr. from basketball, 3rd team all conference, really was the key cog in UCF's lineup, especially towards the end of the year. And Jeffrey Pena of baseball, who led his team with a 339 average, 82 hits in 60 games played. All conference second team. Pena won the fan vote, and he also won the overall vote. So Jeffrey Pena is our 2022 UCF Male Athlete of the Year, Bryson Turner. This one was kind of a tough category, and I think we kind of hinted at this where, some of the men's teams did struggle more than the women's teams, obviously, this year. But when you talk about somebody who was really consistent, Jeffrey Pena was it for UCF baseball.
His 82 hits that you mentioned earlier, Jeff, that is the most hits a UCF Knight has had in a single season since 2011 when Jonathan Griffin had 86. Of course, wow. His signature ability, his stolen bases, not only has he set a program record for stolen base percentage, he has a 943 stolen base percentage. Almost 95% of the time he steals the bag. He also stole 20 or more bases in back-to-back seasons for the first time since Matt Ray did it in 2005 to 2006. I mean, and of course, you mentioned his batting average. I mean, he was this team's rock when it came to batting average. He also had the walk-off double that kept the team alive against Houston in the AAC semifinal. I mean, it's a wonder to me, by the way, because the MLB draft was recently. We talked about how, the 3 UCF players got drafted. The fact that Jeffrey Pena has not gotten drafted yet is beyond me, because I think he has more than proved his athletic ability on the field. And I really do think he deserves a shot to prove himself in the professional system. And this season is just a showcase as to what he can really bring to that. And he had really helped get this UCF baseball team as far as they did.
Right. If this team is in the regionals, this is not even a conversation. It's an easy win for him. I think that's the only reason that people may not be aware. See, he's such a quiet guy too. Doesn't really bring attention to himself. He just did his job every day. It was consistent and really was on fire. I mean, that's a great stat Bryson just mentioned. Most hits for any UCF baseball player since 2011. Yeah. I mean,
11 years. Wow.
That's pretty good. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
That takes us to Women's Athlete of the Year. And man, this was tough. Our nominees: McKenna Melville for volleyball, AVCA All-American, led the NCAA with 701 points, 617 kills, and she's still got another year left to go of this. Diamond Battles of basketball, another all-region player, AAC Player of the Year, AAC Defensive Player of the Year, most outstanding player of the American Championship, unanimous first team all-conference. We miss you, Diamond. Pat Pidden of golf, 6 top 10 finishes, AAC Player of the Year, helped UCF to a final ranking of 35 in the golf stat rankings. Renaya Jones, the star of stars, Renaya herself, bronze in the NCAA track and field championships, set a new program record in the 60 hurdles, MVP of the AAC indoor meet with four goals in total this year, 3 indoor, 1 outdoor. Boy, is she going to be fun. I can't wait to see her on Team USA in 2024. It's going to happen. I'm putting it out there into the universe. And Jada Cody of softball, another All-American, D1 softball first team, Softball America second team All-American, ranked the 21st best player in the country according to D1 softball, the most outstanding player of the AAC tournament, first team all-conference, broke records left and right, including Stephanie Best's RBI record. Jada won the fan vote, and she won the overall vote. Our 2022 UCF Women's Athlete of the Year, Jada Cody of UCF softball, Eric Lopez, well-deserved.
It's a well-deserved honor. When you are mentioned now in the same sentence as a Hall of Famer like Stephanie Best, you're doing some pretty good things, and that's what Jada Cody's doing. Breaking the RBI record, home run. She does the home run RBI, but she also catches. Remember, Gianna Mancha would tell you she doesn't have the success she has without Jada Cody catching her. Great third base, left field. Now going to be on Team USA. It's going to go down as arguably the greatest all-around season that any UCF softball player has ever had. That's how big of a year Jada Cody had, and historic year she had. Well-deserved honor in maybe the most stacked category in the history of the Bannies and moving forward, considering the list. That was an insane list of nominees, future Hall of Famers, All-Americans, you name them, are in that category, Jeff. It's the biggest, without question, the most stacked category ever that we've ever done since we started the Bannies.
And we didn't even mention the fact that AAC Goalkeeper of the Year, Caroline Delisle, didn't even get nominated. That's how stacked this category is. And by the way, this is an interesting stat that I remember. If you remember last year, Renaya Jones took both the Breakout Athlete of the Year and the Female Athlete of the Year, second year in a row that the same athlete took both awards.
Yeah. That takes us to our last 2 awards of this year's Black and Gold Banneret Awards, the men's and women's teams of the year. We start with the men. UCF Golf nominated. Made the NCAA region as an 11 seed, 5 top 5 finishes, and a win at the Hartford Hawks Invitational back in September. UCF Baseball finished 35-25, but that was good enough for second in the American. They were 1 win from the American Championship, and they got a win over eventual national champion Ole Miss. And UCF Football finished 9-4 despite a slew of injuries in that Louisville game. Won the Gasparilla Bowl over Florida, of course, first time beating the Gators, and finished with people forget this, a 7-0 record at home. They protected the home turf. Baseball won the fan vote, but it wasn't enough to overcome UCF football, the men's team of the year for 2022. Drew, you touched upon some of this earlier, but it bears reiterating here. A phenomenal coaching job combined with some, real team. I thought it was a real team effort by a lot of these guys stepping up and rallying. We saw that in our time in the documentary, how, this team was decimated after that Louisville game. And they lose the 2 straight games, Louisville, Navy. And man, it looked like it could have fallen apart. But the coaching staff kept them together. The players themselves rallied around one another. and it ended with one of the most remarkable moments in UCF athletics history in beating Florida.
Oh yeah, no one was safe that season. No player was safe. No coach was safe. Gus Malzahn having a broken leg, and having to coach on a scaffolding, basically, with a table. No crediting is safe. Hi, I'm Eric Lopez. Nice to meet you. Nothing was safe.
Even the PA announcer got hurt and had to miss a game.
Yeah, even the PA announcer had to miss time. I mean, nothing was safe at UCF football. And you know what? They rallied. They excelled. And it could have been far worse. And this goes back to why guys like a guy like T. Will won Assistant Coach of the Year, and Gus Malzahn won Head Coach of the Year. They could have packed it in right after that Louisville game. You know what? Let's just Mikey Keene's going to be our guy. We're just going to work on developing. No, they didn't.
Could have played out the string, but they did not do that.
Yeah, they didn't work on developing. They worked on winning, and they did. Sure, there were a player or two away from having 11 wins, but I think people forget that Navy game was just a couple of plays away from being a win, and then obviously that Louisville game was you do that 9 out of 10 times, it's probably going to end up a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I think people don't give that enough credit, and let's give baseball credit. They also dealt with a lot of injuries, and it derailed the season. The big difference was UCF got that bowl win at the end of the year, ended on a high note, defeated Florida. I think if they lost that game, baseball probably would have won this award.
Or at least it would have been really much more interesting debate there. By the way, Drew, I'm really proud of you. You didn't nominate yourself for Moment of the Year for appearing on Out Time. I mean, I would have voted for you there.
Interview of the Year, Soundbite of the Year, yes. Here's an interesting thing that you bring up, Eric, though, is let's say UCF had beaten, Mississippi State in the Gasparilla Bowl. Probably not as big of a moment, do you think?
Correct.
Probably they don't win that award.
Well, I don't know about they might still win the award because you still win a bowl game. But I don't think this game, for example, I don't think it wins Game of the Year. I mean, the reason it wins Game of the Year is because it's Florida. That wasn't a great game. Like, the Boise game, you could argue, was a better game. But
got my vote.
Right, you voted for that. But the Florida game has more significance because of who it is, and it's the bowl and stuff like that. So, I think the opponent played a big role on that. And look, baseball had, if baseball would have made it to the regional, that would have been a much more interesting regional. And by the way, men's golf, let's get a quick throw. Got in as one of the last 4 teams in. Not a lot of people expected. That was dramatic. I mean, under the radar, but they got in for Bryce Waller. That's big for him to get to the tournament again for their program with the players they have. So, each team kind of had something to be proud of, salvaged, I think, this season. I know, baseball wishes they could have, some of the non-conference games kind of did them in, but it was a lot of adversity this year on the men's side. Hopefully, let's hope for a healthy men's sports calendar year coming up for UCF.
Yeah, in more ways than one. And that takes us to our final award of the year, which is the Women's Team of the Year. We've talked ad nauseum in this podcast about how great of a year it was for UCF women's sports all the way around. The nominees, you could probably list them off, without me having to do it. UCF volleyball, 27-7, 19-1 in the American, most wins in program history in conference, 4th consecutive American Athletic Conference title, another NCAA bid. They get to the second round, fall just short against UCLA in Pauley Pavilion. So close to getting to that second weekend in 5 sets. UCF women's basketball, what a year for them, winning the double, regular season and tournament title in conference, 26-4, 14-1 in the American. Won their first NCAA tournament game against Florida, and again came so close against UConn in the second round from pulling off what could have been the upset of program history, if you ask me. Women's golf. Made the NCAA tournament for the 3rd straight time, 8th in the last 11 seasons under Emily Marin. Finished 11th in the Ann Arbor Regional, 7 top 5s and 2 tournament wins. And UCF softball, of course, which we've talked about, 49-14 on the year. Regular season and tournament championship. First time they've done that since 2015. Hosted a regional for the first time. won a regional for the first time. Yeah, sure, they ran into Oklahoma in the second round. Oklahoma probably could beat the New York Yankees if you give them a chance.
Really paying players like it. Allegedly.
And you see...
NIL, baby.
Wow!
NIL.
Man.
What?
Shots fired.
And UCF just shots are fired in the direction of Norman, Oklahoma. From
Just
Eric
kidding.
Lopez. UCF track and field. Let's not forget, this team had a hell of a year. Pulled the double themselves. Outdoor and indoor champions. Just the third time in program history that they've done that. First time since they've joined the American. And numerous athletes going to the NCAA championships. The winner, 97% of the fan vote. And, of course, they win the overall vote from us, UCF softball. This one could have gone a bunch of different ways, but Eric, I think the fact that they won that regional, they got over that hump, that a lot of UCF teams have been trying to do over the years. Basketball, volleyball among them. They were the first ones to do it, and they did it in spades. What a year for Cindy Ball Malone and everyone at UCF softball.
Yeah, that's what separated them from the pack, was the fact they got to host a regional, win the regional, and advance to the super regionals, which is basically the round of 16. To put that in perspective, since 1999, where pretty much all sports went to the field of 64, only 5 now UCF teams in a field of 64 tournament have advanced to a round of 16. The women's tennis, with Brian Kanyeko last couple of years, which as well as women's soccer, 2011 when they got to the quarterfinals, and then 2014. They got to the Elite Eight. Now, I want to mention, people are going to go, wait a minute, what about men's soccer? They went to 2 Sweet 16s. Those were 48-team field and a 36-team field. Not that means that, it's still a big accomplishment, but just, 64. So overall.
Got buys a couple of times, I think, too.
Correct. Got the buy in 19.
Slightly easier path.
Still, though, if you want to include them, 7 UCF teams ever have gone to the round of 16 or super regional in the history in Division I era. That's incredible. And that's what separated them. And this team won Bryson, you were there. There was a romantic part of this. We've seen this very rarely. We saw this with football in 17, how the city, the community, casual people jumped on the bandwagon. To some extent, men's basketball in 19. This softball team grabbed a lot of people's attention and fanfare that we haven't seen very often, and really is going to pay off here moving forward. They picked up a lot of fans.
Yeah, I think that the big appeal, you mentioned what separated them from the pack, and I actually think that it comes to this reason is they went where they had not gone before. And let me explain. So UCF volleyball, great year. They've been to the second round before. They still didn't get past it. UCF women's golf, they've been to the regional plenty of times under Emily Marin. There's nothing new there. It's still amazing, but nothing new. Women's basketball, they did make it to the NCAA tournament before. They just got their first win. And they did get a vote in the category. And I do agree that I think that women's basketball is a clear number 2 here. Then you have track and field, who of course are coming off of Renaya Jones. They've sent athletes to the NCAA championships before. Nothing new there. What is new is UCF softball not only hosting a regional, but winning it and going to the super regional for the first time ever. It doesn't matter if they go up against the 1920 New York Yankees or whatever. They went where they have never gone before, and people are attracted to that. This is something that they've never done, and the fans were a part of that. They embraced that, and that's what really separates them from the pack, and why they
doing it in dramatic ways too. Yeah. Like you mentioned the Georgia game, the Michigan game, similar to the football team in 17, right? South Florida game, very dramatic. Memphis, dramatic. Peach Bowl, dramatic. There's a flair for that, Drew. Am I right on this? I mean, there's this team attracted non-softball fans, casual fans that a lot of UCF fans supported there, but non-UCF fans too jumped on this team. I mean, there were a lot of people that were happy in the non-UCF fans in softball that they got an opportunity to host. People got behind them.
Well, one, everyone likes a winner. It's easy to follow a winner, and the team was winning. That helps. 1, 2, they were in the spring. There was less competition. look at volleyball was stuck being behind football. Football, while not winning so much, takes up a lot of attention and time. You only have so much to give. So that hurt volleyball's numbers. Because, look what they've done. To say that they're a dynasty in the American is a very accurate statement. They are a volleyball dynasty in the conference. And what they've done is nothing short of amazing, but it's overshadowed by the fact that, people pay attention to other sports first. Soccer, never really got the due attention it deserved when it was having its heyday because of when they were playing. So softball took advantage of the fact that there's really nothing going on at that time. You have them in baseball and track, and softball is the easiest foul. And I think the other X factor is ESPN Plus. The exposure that comes
good point
with ESPN Plus has been able to bring in casual fans, because here's the truth. Softball is actually a lot of fun to watch. It's faster than baseball. The nuances of the game are different, and it's easy to really enjoy and get into. And I think a lot of casual fans had the opportunity to do that, and they went from casual fan to real fan. And I think they're going to continue to follow it because, especially the momentum, Cindy Ball Malone signed a new contract. She's going to be here for a while. You have momentum going into next year. It's not like you had to hit the reset button. There's plenty of talent there. And I think it's only going to build from where you got now.
And I think this proves a point that, administrators and coaches have been making this point to us and to the fans for a long time, but it really bears repeating. Look at how much of an advantage it was for UCF to host, right?
Bingo.
To host that regional. And it's
and they
why,
sold out.
And they sold out. So it looked great on TV. It was sold out. Huge advantage for the team in competing there. That's why these coaches fight so hard, in those non-conference schedules to try and put themselves in a position to us. And this was why, we talked about the story of the year too in the Big 12. It's going to be even that much. I don't know if it's going to be easier because the competition is going to step up big time, one way or the other.
It gives you more room for error.
It does give you more room for error, right? And this is why fan investment, not just through season tickets, but donations, the commitment that UCF has made. We saw that. We saw the fruits of that in UCF softball this year. What that can mean for not just a team, but the program in general. And I think that's, that it's just a little bit of a preview, Eric, for what we hope that we'll be seeing once UCF gets to the Big 12 in July of 2023.
Well, and the fan support too. UCF was 21st in the country in attendance. Total attendance in college, in softball, Division I. And if you ask those players, Bryson, we asked those players, those fans made a difference in the regionals. The alumni just cheering on the starting chants makes a difference, and that's the other reason why you want to host, because your fans you have the fans on your side instead of going up against thousands of people on the other side. That was a big factor in all this, and that's the momentum that Drew was talking about, Bryson, that's carrying over for softball, and I think we'll also carry to the other sports. I have a feeling that the other sports, starting with volleyball this fall, they saw that. And that's going to motivate. These people are competitive human beings, okay?
We learned that in these polls, man.
Oh, my goodness.
The volleyball and the softball people and the baseball people, too. And I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about the players, the parents, and the coaches, man. They got competitive about this.
A news organization picked up on this. SNN in Sarasota picked up on this. It's, the competition's legit. It is legit.
Let's not forget, gentlemen, that we are getting let's really take stock of the athletes that we're going to be seeing play over the next 365 days. McKenna Melville, Renaya Jones, Jada Cody, Shannon Doherty, Ryan O'Keefe, Luca Dorado, Caroline Delisle.
It's a terrible day in UCF
all coming
sports.
back. All coming back.
And more likely than not, Jeffrey Pena. I'm just kind of overwhelmed of looking at this, thinking holy crap! How? I guess in terms of just overall athletic department is I don't know if we've had as many stars playing at the same time in a long time, if not ever.
Well, and think about the teams too. Softball brings back pretty much their entire offense. Pitching's the big question there. They got to figure out. They lose Mancha and Woodall. Volleyball loses Watson and Moravec, but return a strong nucleus from a team, Jeff, that we saw. They're 5 swings away from the round of 16. I think that the deepest in any Division I volleyball UCF volleyball team has ever gone. Like no team has ever been closer to the round of 16 than this past year's volleyball team. Track and field, my goodness, I feel like they're all freshmen and sophomores. They're all coming back, basically.
They have the steepest upward trajectory, I think, of any program right now, track and field. And I'll tell you that I do think that we're due for, we talked a little bit about like how big, this year has been for the women's sports. I think we are due for a real upward trajectory for the men's sports as well. I think that, football expectations are going to be high. I'm interested to see what men's basketball is going to do with a roster that's kind of been completely retooled. What are we going to see from men's soccer? I know that Coach Calabrese. That's the team I think
half the roster is going to be new. The American is, even though it's the same league, it's in a way
it'll be a little tougher with those new teams. Yeah, with FIU joining the fray in Charlotte and a couple others. It's going to be wow. We have a lot to look forward to in 2022. 23 and man, what a year to go into. It's our last year in the American. You guys remember how we did in our last year in Conference USA? How many conference championships UCF won?
I remember we got screwed in Tulsa in football. I do recall that.
I still think that some guy jumped off the sidelines and made a tackle on that championship game.
Something weird. I think women's soccer may have won the conference title there. Volleyball was in the title game, I think, that year.
It's no different than when they left the Atlantic Sun. They were dominating that conference too when they moved on.
It's going to be interesting, though. And by the way, something to keep in mind. This is the last year the UCF will get to host any potential conference championship games. Like in football, this is it, because the Big 12 in football plays in a neutral field. All the other sports are on neutral fields in the Big 12. So this is the last time you could see UCF potentially in football or men's or women's soccer host a conference championship game.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh man,
all the other sports
just bummed me out saying
are not happening.
Well, I mean, I know there's other story. The thing we got to get through. By the way, we said this last year. You did not come through on this. You are our Tampa bureau. We got to get you out to see McKenna Melville in person. Maybe not if you can't make it here. You got to go watch her in Tampa. So especially this will be the last time UCF USF playing in conference. UCF's going to the Big 12. USF's going to stick. Going to get beat up by FAU now for the next decade. But we got to get you out to some of these Olympic sports. That's the goal here. That's the new goal.
We made improvements from the first year to the next year. So if we make incremental improvements, that's what matters. I tried to get to a volleyball match during one of the football Saturdays. I think it was the Boise State day. Didn't quite work out. That day kind of went a little bit sideways for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So that didn't happen. But if you haven't been to a volleyball match, she's a living legend. She's arguably
do it now.
Do it now. She may be top 3 athletes ever to play at UCF period and dominate her sport. Her, Michelle
510 kills away from top 10 all time.
Yeah, I mean we're talking
regardless
about
of era.
Great. You may think like Blake Bortles is the best ever, but McKenna Melville is looking at all time ever in NCAA. We're talking major record books. So I mean, you don't get that every day.
Yeah. So you get to watch her. You get to watch her. Jada Cody, UCF. They're going to be in Clearwater for the ESPN tournament. Mr. Drew Glukoff. That could be right up your valley as well. We got a lot of options for you.
45-minute to an hour drive.
What we've learned is we're not going to send you to men's basketball. We did learn that lesson.
Let's not forget with McKenna that last year McKenna had a major case for female athlete of the year last year, but she ran into Renaya Jones breaking out. This year she ran into Jada Cody breaking a long-standing record. I mean, this could be McKenna Melville's year coming up, barring some other just Herculean achievement that I can't ever even fathom happening.
Problem is she's too good, and her numbers are too good.
We take her for granted, is what you're telling me. Well, listen, one thing we do not take for granted is you, the fans, helping us out with these awards. You've been great the last 3 weeks in voting for. We really appreciate
record-breaking voter turnout. By the way, thousands, insane numbers. Like my goodness, it's insane.
Really appreciate it to you. Really appreciate it to all the athletes who shared our content on social media and campaigned a little, champagning and campaigning, as Jalen Rose likes to say. We really appreciate you guys doing that for us. That's tremendous, and the teams as well, the coaches. The administrators, the assistants, everybody, we do this for you guys because we want to honor the achievements that you've made in the course of your year. So congratulations to all of you. And we look forward to a lot of fun in 2022, 2023. So with that, we conclude the 2022 Black and Gold Banneret Awards show, which means we put a final bow on the 2021-2022 athletic year at UCF, which also means we start next week our look ahead to the 2022-2023 year, and we start looking at some football preview content, Andrew, because we got some stuff coming up. We got Media Day for the conference coming up. We're going to have Media Day at UCF coming up, I think, fairly soon. I haven't seen a date yet on that, but we're expecting it to come by pretty soon. We are already being asked to vote in like preseason polls and stuff. This is it's going to start to get real next week. We make the transition from the end of one year to the beginning of the next.
There's no rest for the wicked. And
that's why Kyle's not here. He's just camping out for getting ready for practices and everything. He's probably camped out somewhere.
Yeah, he and Trace Trolko have tents set up waiting.
We're right outside the Wayne Dance. Yeah, we'll leave it right there. But we are so thankful to you, and I am thankful to you guys, Eric, Bryson, Drew. Thankful to Kyle. Thankful to Derek. Thankful to Noah. Thanks to all the Jeremy and Danny who were with us earlier this year. Everyone who has helped us out with content. Thankful to the SIDs at UCF.
We wish them well on all their movements.
We wish a bunch of them well. A bunch of them have actually left the office and moved on. But we're so thankful to them for not just this past year, but all the years that they've spent with us. Thanks also to John Heisler, who's been so good to us in helping set things up and set up amazing interviews and runs a tight ship over there. Thanks to John. Wow. I mean, every year I'm in awe with gratitude for everybody that has helped us out. And it starts at the top. Terry Mohajer, thanks again to Terry. Thanks to Rich. Thanks to Jimmy. And I know I mentioned John before. Jimmy Skiles, of course. Thanks to Rich Zavosich, who's Terry's right-hand man. What a time to be a UCF fan right now. This final year, as we head into this final year in the American before UCF moves to the Big 12 conference in every sport but men's soccer, where they go to the Sun Belt, of course, which is a big story that we broke. So again, thanks to everybody, and thanks to you guys. Thanks to you, the fans and the listeners. If you have subscribed to this podcast, we thank you so much. Please leave us a review. If you have not yet, please subscribe to our podcast via either Apple or Android, wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you follow us on social media if you don't already. We are at UCF Banneret _SBN. Again, that's UCF Banneret _SBN. You can follow us each individually. I am at Jeff _Sharon. You can follow Eric at Eric Lopez Elo. Follow Drew at StatBoyDrew. Follow Bryson at It's Bryson Turner. And of course, follow Kyle at the SOTG for the student of the game. And of course, Derek Warden, our photographer, one of our two photographers with Noah Goldberg. Follow Derek at _DS Warden, where he's just freaking amazing at photos, as is Noah. I mean, those two guys. Go back and look at that photo of the year stuff. That's really remarkable stuff. Noah's at the Noah Goldberg. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, don't forget to subscribe also to our YouTube channel, where we provide a lot of video content for you as well, including media days and post-game press conferences. And we will be stepping up our game this year as we head into this, again, our final season in the American before we move to the Big 12. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thank you so much for listening. This has been the 2022 Black and Gold Banneret Awards Show. We will catch you next week as we dive into the new athletic year of UCF sports.